meeting of the Franklin Tourism Commission and start this evening by conducting roll call. Jeff Kadursky is absent by notice. Bill Elliott, same. Barbara Wisner? Here. Mark Wiley?
Here.
If you would all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, next agenda item is the citizen comment period. After 6.
There's someone sitting up there.
Yeah.
Is that for us?
No, BZBA. So, seeing no citizens, move on from the citizen comment period to the review and approval of our meeting minutes from the May 21st. Draft of those minutes are in your packet. Any comments or questions on the minutes of the last meeting?
Motion approved.
Now the second.
Motion, Mark. A second for Barbara. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes passed. Reports. Engage Franklin.
Okay, so we've had a lot of things going on. There was a company or an outfit called DY Sports. I don't know the origin of the DY, but they had a basketball tournament in June. Highly successful, and we raved about Franklin. They are now working on booking up fall and winter days.
DY Sport.
DY Sports. And it's like kids basketball.
And was that held at the Bosch?
I believe it was. He did not tell me exactly where it was.
They came in early.
So that's it was a win for us. It was somebody that he had come in for a site visit, wine and dining all night. They thought it was a great facility, and so everything's going along there.
So how many people were here?
He didn't give me that information.
Oh.
Yeah.
So they're booking for.
They're looking for fall and winter days.
Okay.
Book other tournaments.
And this is youth,
Yeah.
kids?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And what was the tournament that we had in June? Here was basketball.
And his other point here is our goal is to have the fall and winter seasons filled with traveling basketball teams, because the baseball fills the summer. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have basketball. It's good replacement for the baseball.
Yes.
He is working on bringing a thing called West Coast Premier Baseball Show, targeting August weekends, again, where the youth baseball is not active, as well as fall and winter. Don't know anything more about West Coast Premier. One of the things he has on his target. Baseball. This is baseball. A new thing that he added is NHPA, National Horseshoe Pitchers, that he is discussing with them to bring their horseshoe championship. See how that worked out. The Root River bowling tournament that I talked about last time is moving ahead. I do not have a copy of the promotion of that, but it's going to be available fairly soon. But Tammy's goal is to make this the premier bowling tournament in Wisconsin. I think last time I had said they're talking about 3,000 people.
Mark, I think we've got blocks. Hearing about blocks.
It could be. Because that's going to be
nice piece of that's a great partnership.
It's
That's going to
November
be phenomenal
14th
for
to December
area
28th.
Restaurants and hotels.
Yeah. And she has said that she's had a lot of increase of kids and parents coming over after baseball. You want to have a burger, or
right.
Parents want to have a beer.
Right.
Come over. So he's working on doing other things to fill the fall and winter season. On the visitor's guide, as you know, the mayor had some input for him. He's taken all that feedback from commission meeting, and he's implementing those updates for the next print version. We had a board meeting for Engage Franklin targeted for last Monday. Not have quorum.
Last Monday, yes. This Monday, this week, Monday, or previous Monday?
So we moved our next board meeting is actually scheduled for June 25th. More information then. And Snovana is still moving ahead. That was the other thing he had. That's already booked for winter time.
And is that going to take place at the?
That's it. Well, I don't know if I think that's got exhibits that'll be at Mosh, I believe. That's the snow equipment.
Snow equipment vendors, right?
Yeah.
It's like a big trade show.
Yeah. So he's doing a lot of stuff as far as lining up. So that's the report from the.
All right. Any questions?
I don't think so. No.
What I'll work on getting a copy of what he's planning to change. We can read.
Okay, thank you. Unfinished business. We had talked last meeting. We were hoping to meet with a couple of board members from Franklin, but scheduling conflicts that just couldn't happen.
Yeah, Laura's out of town, and I think it's critical that she be here and a couple others.
Absolutely. And I think she was going to talk with the board, like there are a few board members that had some insight into, promotional activities. Just would take an interest in the investment vision. Bring people along.
Yeah, after our last tourism commission meeting, I gave her my target list to include Franklin. Fortunately, he and I were able to talk more than a couple of email since then. So that will be a topic on the 25th. We'll talk about it. She is still, I believe, looking for somebody to coordinate group meeting. Okay. But I know she absolutely believes it has to happen.
Moving on to unfinished business. Left this agenda item on here, obviously. We have the results back of our survey. And it was fairly clear, and you heard expressed by the last that there's some priorities that or there's some potential investment priorities. I think that the town council would prefer, and those seem to fall on the lines of investment, like in infrastructure or very similar to, I'm guessing, I'm wrong, things like we turf at the soccer fields. Also, probably seeding events for the city of Franklin. Events. And then, of course, what kind of came to light here that we talked a little bit about last time was this startup budgetary but on Engage Franklin costs and just getting just going through the reorganization process and the whole name rights and all that, and then tasked with updating the website, the visitor's guide, some of those foundational sort of activities that any DMO, any organization tasked with promotion get set up. But we realize that there may be an opportunity to assist or help out to get them to a place where they're effective, and maybe help the realize its goals. For example, of being able to sell advertising, guide, and online to offset the cost, like a lot of organizations do. They get their directories to a point where they are a source of revenue, and so the cost of the directory is almost entirely covered by advertising costs. Those are great goals, but you got to get up and running. So you can see that there could be a chunk of that there could be an investment in that for Engage Franklin. We also talked about the director, the responsibility of the director, and can you be adequately staffed, with the dollars that.
That is something that Laura and I have talked about. Staffing level. I know she agrees that more money could be used for money could be used for other activities. That's as far as.
Well, I know that we're not a full, but I think just to plant some seeds as we continue with this agenda item. It's clear that the idea of maybe taking all of these retained funds, one specific, one activity. It may not be that one activity may not be out there. That at that level there might not be something that we can apply all those funds. However, it sounds like there's at least 2 or 3. If you want to quarter this up or third it up, there's probably 2 or 3 projects for sure that dollars could be allocated that would satisfy the priorities we got in that survey. Whether that's a chunk for direct investment infrastructure, somewhere here in town that, like the soccer fields, that would encourage greater tournament play, more visitation. Could be another new music, arts, culinary festival or event that is seated and then is an ongoing event that's maybe scheduled for a time of the year where it would benefit visitation of Franklin, meaning, at a time when you're not already busy. I mean, shame of some of these things. Everyone wants to summer. Well, the summer weekends get there's only so many of them, and they're pretty well to take care of themselves. But some of these, there are certain shoulder seasons or off seasons, and that's why this bowling tournament is phenomenal. Where if you can target a festival that is going to drive business on a week or week, well, that benefits everybody. And then I can see a chunk maybe going into I'll call it infrastructure for Franklin, meaning guidebook, website, these kinds of things that allow the organization to get beyond that, be able to use those tools to further promotion. I think we all saw that just with the budget they had, guide. So anyway, just some things to think about. That it looks like it's evolving into maybe 2, 3, maybe 4, buckets. And I will say, and I just want to bring this up just as a discussion point. In my quest to just see what's out there in the way of a visitor's guide and website, like Pleasant Prairie, that have very similar situation as Franklin, where there's lots of land, but maybe everything's kind of spread out, and so it's not downtown Milwaukee, it's not where so many activities are just concentrated in a small area. And so I started looking at just different communities like that, what their guide looked like, what their website looked like, and in that search I ran across a company that actually has a local representative here in Milwaukee. It's called McDaniels, They just did Pleasant Prairie's website. I don't know if they work with, but why I bring it up is that, and I'm not saying McDaniel's company necessarily look at, but a company like that is in the has experience in working with markets like Franklin, and is charged with, ramping something up, but also doing it in a way that, when handed off, doesn't require. They don't set up systems that require you to be beholden to them every year, because everything they've done got to come back to us. You've got it. So because one of the things I think we've all agreed on is that whatever these investment funds, whatever they do, you don't want to saddle either Engage Franklin or the organization that is receiving it with an annual budget that they've got to try to match, where we, once the investment is done, we may not have those funds to budget. So anyway, I
want it to be a tool that the staff can work with, that they can populate.
exactly right. So it should assist them in their efforts and get them over. And when it comes to Engage Franklin, that could even mean we talked about, depending on how they want to staff and do things, it could be a commitment for 1 or 2 years or whatever to say, get to here, But anyway, because the future and especially I think about Franklin, I'm seeing in these websites now what they're marrying up is just, the website, but with itinerary planning and using AI to just generate, to create, based on some things that you just say you're interested in. They start pulling the bits and pieces, So this is where, we've got some unique things going on here. We've got all these trails and parklands, and we keep hearing about how we got bird watchers that are attracted to this area. You can now have these itinerary planning tools built in that start pulling in all this and say, here you go, Barbara, here's your trip. And I've mapped it out for you. And these are places, they're all partners, they're Franklin Tourism partners. Here's how you're going to do this for 3 days. Because you say something like, I want a 2-day trip, I'm in on Friday, I'm out on Sunday, and I want to do this kind of stuff. It starts pulling it together and goes, here's 3 options.
Cool idea.
Yeah, plus it allows you to sell tickets. And one of the things we were talking about, maybe app briefly, is the ability to, through Engage Franklin or whoever is to charge for things and process and offer a service to smaller tourism entities that maybe don't have the ability to market these events, or for them it would be tough to sell tickets online. That's a service that can run through Engage Franklin. They can make a little bit of money on it, but it's really, again, helping that tourism partner put something out there.
An interesting comparison, Pleasant Prairie, because in my mind, kind of similar to not a whole lot of big hotels. Freeway runs through.
Yeah.
And that's where the discount mall is.
Yeah, there's an outlet mall there.
Yeah, the outlet.
Yeah.
So if you look at what they've done for that, it's really high. And the other thing that I was impressed with is it just gave me a feeling that Pleasant Prairie is really, it had a high-end feel to it. I'm like, I've been through Pleasant Prairie, and that made me want to take another look.
And they have a lot of warehousing and manufacturing there located on the other side of the highway.
Yeah.
The outlet mall.
Yeah, that's true, because Uline is there.
Right,
And,
It wasn't Foxconn just down the road there, or that,
Yes.
up the road, down the
up the
road,
road,
depending
yeah.
on what you call
Which
north and south. North of there, we'll say.
north
that.
of there, yeah.
It'd be a good homework thing to take a look at the website.
I and I actually know of another DMO like Engage Franklin that has just brought them on board because they moved beyond their website creator and content provider out of South Dakota, and they've found this group. And the executive director, kind of like the Brandon of this organization, was very impressed with the CRM component, the part that does the itinerary planning and houses, provides ticket selling opportunities. It's actually a Canadian company. And it's just the way that married up was really interesting. But just the work they did, I thought, was top notch. So anyway, these folks have reached out to me, and I said, well, the first step here for us is, if that's a path we're going down with Engage Franklin,
then if you want to get into that discussion, if we're actually looking for services like that, happy to share with you. Yes, we're going to do that. And if you're interested, send something our way. But I said, let me first just start bringing this up, one, to our tourism, and then two, with the Engage folks from Franklin. And then as we go down that path, we'll talk. But I just wanted to sort of,
No,
if you get a chance to look at the Pleasant Prairies site, just take a look and tell me.
okay.
And like I said, they're a company based out of, let's say, Illinois, but they've got a creative person in a couple different states. It just so happens that they're in Milwaukee.
Okay. It's worth taking a look at.
Yeah. And again, it's not so much the company as it is the idea of that type of site, the look and feel. I want you just to tell me what you think about the look and feel of it, and because that's really what we're talking about here. Because there's companies like that all over the country, and right here in Wisconsin that do that. But getting it right, and again, if you tell them on the front end what you're after, then you get better
That's
results.
an idea, because when we went to Utah, we did similar. We had a couple off. This is something we hadn't started out, so tell us what else is there to do.
Yeah.
So it's a good idea.
Yeah. No, and I think we could really benefit from that. And, I mean, the Rock, obviously, we'll know about that. That's a great trip. But once you get beyond the Rock, you really have to start digging a little bit to find some gems here that are here,
And they're here.
right?
Yes.
But you wouldn't necessarily know it. And then and I don't know if you guys have, I've been just recently, just every once in a while, typing in lodging Franklin or where to stay in Franklin or just tourism related. And actually, the city's website, Celebration, comes up first in a lot of those searches. And then Engage Franklin shows up. And it is a little, if I didn't know the difference between Celebrate Franklin and Engage Franklin, it's a little confusing. You get into the site, you go through it, and you realize, oh, this is the city site, right? Am I right about that? Celebrate Franklin?
So, Engage Franklin should have control of it now. And so
I thought they did.
I thought it was coming down. And I know Brandon was working on it.
Now, I will say it's been over a week and a half since that happened, but should that have happened a while ago?
That should have happened a while ago. When Brandon came on, when he first came on, he was taking that down. Now, like they say, when something's on the internet, it's on there.
Right.
Yes.
So it
But
might
not,
not even.
but not at the top of the search list.
So I've got Google pulled up here. I'm just on my laptop here, and I'll put hotels in Franklin.
Hotels in Franklin, Wisconsin.
That's right. We don't want Franklin.
That's right.
Well, maybe that's not the best search because hotels. Then you get like Expedia and all that.
Sure.
Right.
So let's do.
Things to do in Franklin,
There you go.
Wisconsin.
There you go. Yep. In fact, that's a search. That's somebody else has come up with it. All right. So let's look at the. So the first in the list of Google, of course, Google starts with this AI overview now, right? So it says Franklin, Wisconsin is nature lovers can explore the Weir Center. Franklin Woods Nature Center, while sports enthusiasts can enjoy baseball with Milwaukee Milkmen. Other options include visiting Borner Botanical Gardens, Kalis Playground, Crystal Ridge for skiing and snowboarding. All right, so then, but if you get beyond this, the AI listings, then the very first one is City of Franklin, Entertainment and Attractions. Then the next is TripAdvisor. Then Eventbrite, events this weekend in Franklin. Next one is Celebrate Franklin. So if I click on that, and this is, you're saying the site that was going to be taken over by, right?
This
So-
is the original field.
this is the original. Now, I'm clicking on it, and it's letting me do things. Now, it looks like it's just a shell of what it once was, because it doesn't have, this is what it looks like. Like, it looks like a site that,
It's just an outline.
yeah, but if I click on things to do,
That looks like, actually looks like. this-
area attractions, it just lists stuff, it just has listings. But the fact that it just even comes up,
Yes.
I think somehow that linked onto the city's website. That looks like the city's website that it linked on to. and how do I say it? Because it's linking onto it, it's not really fully
No,
capable, fully engaged.
right, right.
Because the city's website has those, that structure,
They went to,
but it looks better.
it has the road closures and things like that.
Yeah,
So it
yeah.
does
Oh,
go to
that's
the
the
city
city
And
website.
that's the thing that's obviously a little confusing when you're looking for, like, because as I was trying to find lodging, under Celebrate, and I wasn't even getting this. You're right, this is the old.
But it does say
site.
Celebrate Franklin on the website, and the
Yeah,
address.
yeah.
Yeah.
But what I was getting
don't know
was the
how you-
cities, I was getting the cities, listings that they have for, what you can do. And
Yeah, I'm sure Thiel is not, boosting it or doing whatever they do to
No,
help
I'm sure
elevate
not.
it anymore.
It's not paying them anything.
Well, and it does say copyright 2024. It's not been updated for a while.
And then Engage Franklin is about the seventh one down. It's Eventbrite is actually in twice, and then you get to Engage Franklin, and even that looks. This is just the. It's a piece of the Engage Franklin website because it's if I go here, right, I'm clicking on this. Wait, let me just click on the.
He doesn't like
No.
the public nature of it.
Anyway, I guess what I'm telling you is that's a little surprising that Celebrate is still out there again. So
I'm making
This
a
is
note
what-
that we need to redirect them to,
yeah,
because people may have Celebrate Franklin in their mind, and if they type that in, if it takes them to Engage Franklin, that's okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they could make us shell
Yeah.
redirects.
Right.
Multiple
I'll bring that up with Brandon.
agencies have multiple addresses, website addresses, and then to all direct you to the
Yep.
city.
I
Some-
thought it had just been taken care of.
Well, it looks like it's been disabled to an extent.
Yeah, but it still should not take you to a page you can do things on.
Right.
That's
Should
in
say
that memory.
this, you can redirect you, right? Say this
Yeah.
is no longer valid. And you're being redirected to Engage Franklin. Yeah. All right. So, but we'll wait till. So our hope would be that next meeting you will meet with folks.
Yeah.
Yeah, board members. That's all we had under unfinished business. Moving on to new business. Barbara, did you have something you wanted to?
Well, I'm not sure if I do or not. I think I sent the email that I received from Carly Hintz to all three of you, because I wasn't really sure where this should go, to be honest with you. And I think they sent it, did any of you get it before, other than just from,
Just from you.
just from me? Okay. And I think they sent it to me because I had been kind of championing them last year when they were asking me. So that's why it came to me. So anyway, I'm glad you made a copy of it, so that you could see what they're looking for. And I'm not sure, is this something that Tourism Commission wants to talk about, or is this the sort of thing that should go to Engage? I'm puzzled.
There's an immediate problem with going to Engage, and that is that they only allocated $200 things like this.
No, I couldn't believe that.
And I have not pursued that. But I will also say they don't have the money more than a couple hundred right now. So that fits into what you were saying, Lance, in terms of give them more money to help them do this kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Really, it does belong in the Engage Franklin bucket. But I recognize they don't have the money to do it. And having said that, I recognize we do have the money.
That's true. Mm-hmm.
And I do know that Weir Nature Center is a good partner, is a good entity within the city,
Mm-hmm.
and they do bring tourists from not just Franklin but throughout the surrounding area. Now the challenge is that result in days.
They come right out and say in here, that we're not.
Yeah, they
Because
said-
this is a fundraiser.
right.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
here, and to be honest with you, I hadn't really read this carefully, but it does say that the Ware Nature Center serves more than 9 counties from around southeastern Wisconsin, from Sheboygan to Fond du Lac County, Walworth and Kenosha. And they must have some reason, or they must be able to document that. I'm sure they get, do some surveys or whatever.
Don't they sometimes, you have to go in and buy a commission?
Yes,
I
sometimes.
think they do ask.
Yes.
I know there's some days that are free, and there's some days, some ways to go to the park for free without going in. It's kind of like if you drive in and park there, then to see the facility.
So this is to support this event, Cider's Sunday, right?
Yes.
And so they think maybe Cider's Sunday could draw 1,000 attendees.
I would agree with that. I can see that.
I too.
And they use this as a substantial fundraiser for Friends of the Nature Center.
They do.
Is that right?
They do.
Run by volunteers.
Yeah.
And they'll have TV coverage. You know, last year they had Fox 6. Sure that NBC affiliate has people who come in and they'll do a 5-minute spot and talk about it.
And we actually did, was this last year or a couple years ago, Barbara, that we gave $1,000 to the 50th anniversary of the Pollinator Brunch?
Yes, I think it was last year.
I thought it
Wasn't
was
it?
last year.
I thought it was last year.
And I remember the Pollinator Brunch.
And
They were going to give us a couple of free drink tickets to go along with it. People came, and I couldn't go. I don't know.
Yeah, I couldn't go either. I was not sure where I was. Oh. And they do list it there under, on the back page.
Right, and I saw that, and this is where I think you correct me if I'm wrong, but it kind of falls, it seems to me like this is another, where the folks are dealing with right now, or have dealt with, received 200 from.
Oh, yeah,
the
concerts.
the
at the park.
concert series. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's an organization that we have supported in the past, obviously, the Pollinator Brunch, and yet it sort of is in that realm of not maybe, as they are first to admit in their application, this may not generate overnight stays, but Nature Center is a tourism asset in Franklin. So, you know,
I think what they said is we're at the primary location. We are probably contributing additional.
yeah, well, it's, yeah.
Could be, yeah.
It's not the reason, it's not the primary reason people are coming here, but it's one of the reasons staying more than one night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it goes back to if there was a visit planning tool that you could have, somebody could say, I'm going to Ware Nature Center, what else can I do? Right? And maybe decide, oh, there's a Hampton Inn, let's go have free breakfast. I mean, it could happen.
It could happen. So this is where I think we need to discuss, because again, it's back to, it's in a gray area that was at a time when we were, as a commission, evaluating projects, and some of them maybe had more of a community focused component than maybe than where we are now, which is more of, you know, it's got to demonstrate, you know, some ability to generate visitation, overnight stays, and especially in this situation, it's a fundraiser, as opposed to maybe an event that they're doing that actually draws folks in that
True.
they have, you know, the Nature Center itself. Now I realize that this is a organization right dedicated to supporting the center, right?
Right.
So yeah, so what do you think? And
Before we get into that, I think this does raise another thing that we need to talk about. Help them understand this is the kind of thing that we envision. And so our first pushback should be how many overnight stays. They are pointing where Gage sat last time. They would come back and say, well, we're only going to do it if it generates overnight stays. we're looking to engage to do other things for the good of the community. So we need to include this kind of thing in this meeting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if Bill Elliott was here, he would say, well, you know, all of our room tax dollars should be geared towards that. But if Engage Franklin, I know I was talking about this last time, I did use the wrong,
Yeah, you
I
can't
used
call
the
it
wrong
Chamber
words.
of
I started
Commerce.
using
Yeah.
chamber. But what I meant to say, basically, is that Engage Franklin's mission with revenue sources that are not city room tax dollars, and that could be advertising visitors guide, that could be
Right.
advertising website. Those revenue dollars could be used for more community-based events that are
Exactly.
within their, you know, it's part of their asset base for the tourism. But they can take a little different look at it and go, you know, this is good for the community and there's going to be outside visitation. Maybe a day visit, maybe a day trip, but it's good. Because maybe somebody will come back another day and
Yeah.
stay overnight.
And I think it goes to their Engage's funding has been limited because of what we can give them this year. What we need to do is help them find other ways to grow their monetary sources. Is selling it. So they need help with it. We can help them.
And that's, I mean, I might have missed something. That's sort of what was intriguing to me and encouraging about Engage Franklin. That they're, as a DMO, they could take a little broader look at some projects that we, if we're, you know, we're looking at this the way that we should, we're going to have to be a little more narrowly focused on what it can do, where they might be able to broaden that.
Yeah, and I agree with you. If Bill were here, he'd be adamant about this doesn't generate room tax.
Right.
It's not in our purview.
And I would say, let's kick it. So to answer your question, Barbara, if you were to ask me that, I'd say yes. Let's put them in touch with. But as you said, Mark, the reality of that is we're saying your funding options, not to what you're
For this year.
and not to what you expected, what you see from
Because
the Tourism Commission.
in a sense, we are limiting the amount of money that we're giving to Engage for them to be able to do this. So it's also sort of on us to do, if we want to do these kinds of community events, it's on us to make it possible. And I like the idea, of course, of advertising that would come from the guide or wherever else. Should help to pay for that.
So it's Sunday, October 5th. Right? Am I getting that right? So we're just getting a chance to.
We have time.
I was going to say we're missing 2 commission members. We put this on.
Probably have it on the next meeting anyway.
Right.
Kind of
Yeah,
wonder on this
Because this
agenda.
Exactly,
just
right.
came up.
So we'll put it on. Put it under unfinished or the.
I just leave it on new business.
On new
I put it
business.
on new business.
Okay.
And in
That'd be
the
all right,
meantime,
Mark?
I can bring it up to Engage at the next board meeting. But this is part of the conversation we need to have. It goes back to what Bill would say. Does this generate overnight stays? We can't see that. We don't have visibility. Is it good for the community as a whole? That's part of why I wanted it.
But it even, Chairman was saying, this develops your asset base, part of your attractions that make community a good place to visit.
Right.
That does add overnight stays. That's one of the key value adds in Tourism 101. Get extra nights
Yeah.
out of your stays. How you do it is with activities that people can do. But it's if you want to look at it just through the Shameless Commerce Division eyeglasses, you know, which the Heads and Beds does, that's it. It's part of the mix.
Yeah.
Now, if it's a matter of, well, they can't use their fee-based revenues because they don't have enough. Remember, we've got $35,000 that is still available, that Engage Franklin could take advantage of. And the marketing,
Joe, but from our budget that we're
yeah,
not,
we've
that
got,
we've retained in our budget, which is not part of the 25% we're not sending.
no, I'm talking about the 35,000 we've got in the grant fund and the $20,000, no, 15,000.
Right, so the budget we've retained, right, because
Yeah.
we're not giving them all the room tax that we're taking in, we're giving them 75%.
Yeah, we've got these
So
two
we've got
budgets.
these budget line items, yeah.
15,000 for marketing and it's 35,000, actually, so it's $50,000. Engage Franklin can use, and, you know, we talked about adjusting next year's budget. If
Yeah.
we're not gonna use that, to shift it over to Engage Franklin anyways, but right now, this year, they could utilize that if they got that kind of pressure on their budget. I just don't know what their fee-based activity is.
I don't think they've generated much big stuff.
So I'm glad you brought that up,
Yeah.
because we do have our own, now we envision, so we have a grant budget that we envision people coming to us directly as a commission with events or whatever, grant requests that would, you know, fit under our, you know, guidelines. And so, you know, we're back to whether it does or not.
We could go ahead and do this year, and then say, next year, we're gonna push it down.
I'm just talking about easing pressure on it.
Exactly.
But again, there's that $15,000 in marketing that they don't have to do that. Just say, hey, we want to pursue this.
Can we put some constraints on, let's say we give Engage $15,000. Can we put some constraints on those dollars and say we want these dollars to be used for community events? We tell them that?
Well, again, what I'm talking about is bringing up their fee base.
Oh, if they have
You
some.
could put constraints on it, but it still has to be likely generate over it.
I see.
Mhm.
Okay.
And we realize that they're not there yet in creating those kind of revenues that would definitely take care. Then they could look at this and there'd be no question. Like, great, let's do this. Approved. Let's go. Where we're running into why we're discussing it and not just moving to some sort of motion at this second is that the path is, you know, they outline how they followed our form and they've said this is how we think it will benefit. And it is, I would have to say, it is not as direct a line to overnight stays as you wish, but it is a tourism asset in town. And you know, we just did a search of what to do in Franklin, and Google says, stop at the nature center, you know, as part of their AI extrapolation of what you should do. So I think, you know, we all can agree that it's an attraction. And as John says, we have kept money aside for direct requests like this. And we go down a couple different paths here. Again, this is an Engage Franklin discussion, but is Engage Franklin the clearinghouse for these? You know, like we still tell these folks, talk to Engage Franklin, but then Engage Franklin comes back and says, yes, we've approved
There's
$1,000.
$200.
Yeah. No, they said, we've approved this, pay them, you know, we're making a request that you pay them $1,000 fund. And it's going through Engage Franklin as part of vetting process, or obviously we can also just keep it in-house because we do budget. So, all right, well, we're missing a couple commission members. Why don't we pick this up again next meeting? Everyone's got a chance to read through it by the next meeting, and it'll be under new business.
Okay. Should I get back to them and just let them know that they'll be talked about at our next? I mean,
Absolutely.
since they approached me to begin with,
Exactly.
I'd be glad to do
Yeah,
that.
however you can tell them, this is just the committee process. We brought it up, that now we'd like to keep it under new business.
So I think maybe we should put it under business, because then you can make a decision. You've discussed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unfinished.
All right, okay.
Sorry.
All right, any other?
I have just a quick question. We referred to that $200 for the parks concerts. Whatever happened? Has anything been paid or is not at all,
It was paid, but it was returned
but returned? Because
to Engage.
okay, because Engage was Brandon was putting some restrictions on it, or
Well,
requesting
just
more money,
a
or?
recognition, recognition format, having a logo
Oh, sure, above,
at their event, I think.
above and beyond, okay.
Yeah,
I
so
just
there
wasn't
is-
sure where that had
Yeah,
all
so I
ended
think
up.
we're back to
Yeah,
no.
we left it as Laura will follow up. I've not heard anything.
Okay. I think their first concert is on the, oh wait, no. It's at the end of this, I think.
All right. If there's no other new business, we'll move on to invoices. And we have an Engage Franklin voucher. It is for April and May. I think revenues have come into the city, room tax, and as is our way, as soon as now they come in, the treasurer turns around and says, okay, we're ready to cut check for 75% to Franklin Church of the 100% that's coming to the commission. So you see the voucher here in your packet for $45,000. We had received a total of $60,823.83. 75% is the $45,777. That would be the amount of the payment voucher to.
This was the same.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
All right.
And I will second.
All right, so I've got a motion by Mark to approve the payment voucher for $45,617.87. I've got a second by Barbara. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Voucher approved. Next we get signed tonight. This is right.
This is always kind of,
We've been
Chase.
these in the past. They've been approved, and then I run out the door before John can pin me down for some.
and then the day before it has to be turned into the treasurer's office. I'm sending him the invoice, and he's got to scan it and sign it back to me. And
All right, we have no other invoices to approve, no other vouchers. Next meeting. Yeah, what does July look like for everybody? It would be,
July 16th is scheduled.
so it'd be the 17th, right?
16th.
Or 16th. Yeah,
I should be
Barbara,
also.
Mark,
Could be.
why don't we
Mm-hmm.
then proceed with July 16th? Okay.
I so move that we adjourn.
All right, got a motion by Barbara, second by Mark. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.